ladies and gentlemen, we are here at the end of this god-awful year with the top 50 albums of 2020. Not a great year. Terrible year. Fantastic music, fantastic art. I think this got a lot of people through the year was music, and there was a lot of surprises and a lot of really crazy things to happen, and we're just going to talk about them. And I know you guys are probably going to hate some of these, but you know what? It's my list. So please, if you have any comments on any of these albums, leave them in the comments below. And also, please like and subscribe while you're here if you like it. I'm doing all this stuff early on so I can just get off with the video after we're done. So anyways, here we go. At number 50, again, big surprise. No Pressure from Logic. At number 49, we have Chromatica, the return of Lady Gaga. At 48, we have another great pop album from the year, which is High Road, the return of Kesha. And at 47, we have the new Open Mike Eagle album, Anime, Trauma, and Divorce. At 46, country album, What? Starting Over by Chris Stapleton. Very solid album. At 45, an album that Josh Kirk introduced me to. Thank you to him. Sex, Death, and the Infinite Void by Creeper. And at 44, we have Innocent Country 2, Quelle Chris with Chris Keys. At 43, we have another country album, more pop country this time around, and that is Gaslighter by The Chicks. And at 42, we have Heaven to a Tortured Mind. That's Yves Tumor. And at number 41, we have Purple Moonlight Pages by R.A.P, Ferreira. And at number 40, or Ferreira, my apologies. At number 40, we have another great rap album from the year, Limbo from Aminé. And at 39, we have Brain Pain. Say that 50 times fast. 4 Years Strong. At 38, we have another Carly Rae Jepsen album, her dedicated side B. It's great. It's as good, if not maybe slightly better than the first dedicated. I know, it's crazy. At 37, we have Songs. Adrian Lanker of Big Thief, incredible vulnerable album. Love it. And at 36, another incredible vulnerable album, Shabrang by Sev de Liza. Again, I apologize for all of that, but again, it's great. Please listen to it. At 35, we keep the great singer-songwriter women going for Song for Our Daughter by Laura Marling. At 34, we have King's Disease from Nas, the iconic, legendary Nas returning. At 33, we have Future Nostalgia, great pop album from Dua Lipa. And at 32, we have the internet's favorite weird singer, Poppy, going into nu metal territory with I Disagree. And at 31, we have Miles from Blue and Exile. Incredible release. Incredible dense release. At 30, we have Miss Columbia from Lido Pimienta. I think I got that. Great, again, Latin music. Just great. Great. 29, we have the self-titled Leanne La Havas record. My gosh, I apologize to you so much. And then at 28, we have Gray, the double album from Moses Sumney. Wasn't a huge fan of his first album. This one was incredible. So much better. At 27, we have Women in Music Part 3 by Haim. And at 26, probably the most controversial one is Fetch the Bolt Cutters by Fiona Apple. I know, Brian, I'm going to kill you. I'm sorry, I apologize. Still a good album. But at 25, we have Suddenly from Caribou. Just great pop electronic album, singer-songwriter album. Very catchy, very ambient, groovy. Love it. 24, we have the return of Fleet Foxes with Shore. Again, not a grand, big album like previous albums of theirs, but it's still a really great album in terms of what it's about. And a lot of the songs on here are still incredible, and it's great, and I love this album. 23, we have Brave Faces Everyone, a great pop punk album from Spanish Love Songs. I'm glad that I got to listen to this album. Great songwriting, great instrumentation, just great delivery. At 22, we got Notes on a Conditional Form by the 1975. This is probably also a controversial one. It's not a perfect album. It's kind of a hot mess, but I love all the songs and singles on here. I think are some of their best. And I think some of their B-sides are some of their best. I think this is definitely a lot better in terms of it being a bloated 1975 album than, honestly, some of their older stuff. To be honest, I think this album's great. 21, the new Abnormal, The Strokes, The Return of the Strokes, short album. Every song is tight, consistent, and has great grooves and all of this. And it's just freaking incredible to see them back. And it's so great to see them back in such a great way. And at number 20, we have the remix album, which is 1,000 Gex and the Tree of Clues by 100 Gex. You thought their first album was a piece of iconicness? The remix album is a piece of iconicness. This album's incredible. It's weird. I didn't think they could get any weirder and more experimental, but they did. And as weird and experimental as that goes, the next album, number 19, is 3:15:20 by Childish Gambino. I'm still a big fan of this record. I do think there's a little bit to be said about certain shortcomings of it, but I am excited to see where he goes next because I do like this album, and he kind of lied and said, well, his next stuff's even going to be better than this, so we'll see how that goes. But still, a great album. Very great mix of rap and sort of his R&B stuff, and a lot of pop, too. 18, Honeymoon, Beach Bunny. Short, slick record, great indie pop writing. Again, it's kind of like a snail mail where it's not necessarily the most creative thing ever, but songwriting-wise, it's still really good, and it's introspective, and I like it a lot. Number 17, Visions of Bodies Being Burned by Clipping. I think this album's slightly better than there existed an Addiction to Blood, just slightly. I was very much more interested in the experimentation on this album, as a lot more bolder. And again, the trio is as great as ever, and they go into some crazy territories, and this whole sort of horrorcore direction has been awesome. Great to see another album from them in this style. 16, Man Alive, King Cruel. Man, this album is super hazy, but is so well done. I was a huge fan of this album. I was so excited to listen to this because his last album, even though I liked it, was a little underwhelming. I think this is way better than that. Songwriting's more tight, and I think it's just a more well put together project and more consistent. And again, very great album. At 15, we have Ultra Mono by Idols. Again, this album is produced so crazily. It is amazing. Just the sound of it attacks your senses, and it doesn't let up. Banger after banger after banger, especially something like Rains. Oh my gosh, Rains is probably my favorite song on this album. It's bananas. At number 14, we have a live album, Massey fucking Hall by Japandroids. I'm glad to get something from Japandroids. I loved it. It's basically what they're best at making that sort of anthemic pop punk rock music, and it sounds great, and I love sort of their interpretations of some of their songs and whatnot. 13, Glue, Boston Manor. This is my first time listening to Boston Manor, and I thought the variety of sounds was very interesting, and a lot of the topics were very interesting. And again, I just was very glad that I went and found this album because it's great, and I think it's very different in terms of this sort of style that they're in this music area, I guess you could say. But definitely should check this out. Great record. My gosh, I'm losing my mind at the end of this. 12, No Dream, Jeff Rosenstock. Another great pop punk record. Definitely a huge step up from his last release, Post. This is more in your face. The songwriting is more tight like his other work, and it's just great. It's great, and I love the variety that he has on this record as well and the immediacy of it. And at number 11, we have the huge comeback from Tame Impala, The Slow Rush. I love this record. It deals with time and life. It's his most introspective, depressing record, and some of the stuff time signature wise that Kevin does, and a lot of the stuff on here is so different. And even though I wasn't a huge fan of his last release, Currents, this is what Currents I was hoping was, and it's more refined in terms of kind of that pop music that he's doing with this. Incredible. Top 10, everyone. Number 10, How I'm Feeling Now, Charlie XCX. I think this is better than her last record. I think it's a lot more interesting, creative, and it's more bold in your face, dealing with the times. It's great. Charlie, I love you. You're great. You're amazing. It's lovely having your album cover just sitting on my shelf of you half naked. It's you know, I don't know what I wanted to say there, but we're just going to move on to number 9. The newly inducted Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, 9 Inch Nails with Ghost 6, Locust. Their Ghost 5, I liked. I did not think it was as intricate and interesting as this album. I was way more into the sonics of it, the texture of it. It came off a lot more interesting to me, and it was it was more darker, dreary, and I loved it. It was a great sort of interesting album to bring us into this year with, following up their sort of EP trilogy a few years ago, which the last one was an album. Number 8, Underneath Code Orange, they are experimenting once again. They're sort of doing a lot more electronic stuff on this album. It's still heavy metal at a lot of points, and I love the switch up of sort of more heavier sort of sounds and then the more softer sounds with the more normal vocals or the screaming vocals. You know, I am so glad I got into Code Orange a few years ago. This album I was nervous about from some of the earlier singles, but it grew on me a lot, and it's amazing. And number 7, I think my favorite pop album of the year, I would say. Oh no, there's one before this, but I am sorry. Sawayama, Rina Sawayama. This album is incredible, and I love the majority of it. It's great. I think she's amazing and lovely and just so cool, and it's such a very diverse record, again, in terms of songwriting and sounds and topics. It's awesome. It's dope. Go listen to it if you haven't. Number 6, we have Punisher by Phoebe Bridgers. This is a slow-burning, dark, moody singer-songwriter album. Instrumentation is light and minimal, but it hits, and it has this way of just attacking, again, your senses, because vocally, Phoebe Bridgers, just the moment you know it's a very light record, she just attacks you with these vocals, and you just have to listen and pay attention. It's great. So great. At number 5, we have Set My Heart on Fire Immediately, which is the pop album that I was talking about, Perfume Genius. Honestly, this might be his best record since his what's it called? Put Your Back Into It. To be honest, I think this is his best record other than Too Bright and his last record, No Shape, last year. I think this is more diverse. It's more straight to the point. I think the songs on here I go back to a lot more. It's great. And oh my God, I don't know how Mike can keep doing this. He's incredible. He's incredible. At number 4, we have the sad posthumous album from Mac Miller, Circles. I would have loved to see him do more with this sound. This was incredible. It's heartbreaking. It's also exciting and anthemic. It's moody. The production on it is nearly like flawless. And just his vocals are so passionate, so raw, and they hit you so deep. It's a shame for an album like this to not get recognized that much. But I'm glad that people are still holding on to it like that. Number 3, rap album of the year right here, Run the Jewels 4, Run the Jewels. I think this is their best album since their second. I think it's tied with their second. And production-wise, LP destroyed this album. Like fucking just, not in a bad way, in a great way. And lyrically, it's incredible. The features are incredible. The way this album flows, I think, is, again, one of their best. The topics on here, and it just smacks you in the face. And even though I was a fan of their last record, this felt it was more tighter, it was more consistent, and just the group as a whole just came in with an idea and they just demolished it. So great. And number 2, 2020. Not the year, not the shitty year, the album from Knuckle Puck. I've been a huge fan of Knuckle Puck since I finally got onto them with their sophomore debut, their sophomore album. And this album, I think, is possibly their best. I think songwriting, it's their sharpest. Musically, I think it's their most well-rounded and put together. I think, the fact they made a whole pedal for the guitars on this album are insane. And I think it is probably their most consistent release, and it just has such a great flow. And again, it's just some of the sharpest stuff they've done, and it's just really well-rounded and really well put together. So bravo, gentlemen, bravo. But number 1 is Lament by Touche Amore. I could have done a more like, what is it? This is my album of the year. Stage 4 was incredible, heartbreaking. I wasn't ready for this album to be sort of a release from that. This is more of a therapeutic album, whereas like Stage 4 was more depressing, in your face. This album is talking about Stage 4, moving on from it, the ideas that Jeremy has, moving on from it, and it's, again, they do a lot of different experimental stuff on here that I think is basically pulled off brilliantly. And again, just it hits you. The moment Come Heroin comes on, you are just struck and don't know how to react, really. And It's an album that I keep going back to. It's catchy, but also emotional, and just there's a lot of distraught feelings I have listening to it, but it's my album of the year, and I think I'm glad that it gives me that reaction because it's so well put together. So, those are my 50. I said everything I said at the beginning about like liking and commenting and subscribing, and also if you agree. But if you have other albums that you think are album of the year, put your list in the comments below. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. This was, again, a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys check out my other videos and you check out the videos following up this. But until then, thank you for tuning in to Channel BK. Peace out, guys.